everyone out there listening, and welcome back to yet another edition of your Slightly Mighty podcast, the podcast dedicated to the many musicians, concert promoters, and venue owners who call Charleston, South Carolina their home. My name is Hop, your host and humble facilitator. This will be our 8th Slightly Mighty episode and our first instrument-specific episode as we dive into the deepest end of the frequency pool to talk with local bassists about all things bass guitar. Today's guests participated via phone call to make things a little more manageable, so the sound quality may suffer a bit in places and the show might seem a bit more patchwork than is typical, but all in all, it was a great experience and the guests did wonderfully. I didn't really have any specific goals in mind as I spoke with these musicians. Instead, I encouraged each of them to determine and discuss topics that interested them about bass playing in Charleston, and I hope you will enjoy our conversations as much as I did. I invited just about every bassist in town, and these guys are the ones who responded and were free on the days I set aside for podcast recording. So if your favorite bassist isn't on the show, perhaps they will appear in future episodes. I am also a bassist, as many of you know, so some of today's uncredited bumper music will be from me in order to keep the show bass focused. But most of the bassists on the show submitted their own selections that showcase their different approaches to the bass guitar. Each of their individual submissions will play after each interview if it's been provided to me. And if it's not clear what we're doing yet, trust me, it will be. First up on the show, we've got local bass player and personal friend of mine, for my part, Mason Pitts. How's it going today, Mason?
It's going good, Sean. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. So what's going on? You want to tell us a little bit about yourself? We want to kind of get some knowledge about where you're coming from, your relationship with your bass. I mean, you're the first person on this particular show, so you're kind of the trendsetter here.
Oh boy. Don't put that pressure on me. Well, I'm honored to be on it, actually, man. I appreciate you asking me, and I think you're doing a great thing here, man. It's everything I've heard all the podcasts so far have been great, so keep it up,
hey,
man.
Thanks, man.
That's awesome. I guess, yeah, I'll try to give a brief, boring backstory of myself. I'm from North Carolina originally, and in high school, I studied at the School of the Arts, North Carolina School of the Arts over in Winston, close to where I grew up. And I studied classical guitar and string bass there. And then later I did a couple summer sessions at Berkeley, and then back down. Then I ended up at UNC Chapel Hill, studied music there, and was in a band there for a number of years that kind of ended up doing, the club circuit Southeast, like opening slots at the Farm. And then
who were they?
That band was a band you've never heard of. It was called Knocked Down Smiling.
Okay.
Some of those guys went on to do other stuff. The drummer went on to play with Kenny Wayne Shepherd and then Joe Bonamassa. Great drummer, Bogey Bowles. Good band. We did shows with Widespread and Hootie and Edwin and all those kind of bands in that era. But and then later, after that band was kind of coming to its end, I moved to New York. I got into the bass collective up there and went up there to study.
And can you explain a little bit about that? What is the bass collective?
The bass collective is a school, I'm sure you know, but it started as a drummers collective, and Jocko would hang out there a lot, apparently, back in the day when it was just a drummers, small collective of drummers. And then, they formed the bass side of it. So when I went up there, it was Patitucci was the bass chair. And,
great. Nice.
Yeah, so it was pretty amazing. I was either going to move to Nashville or New York, and when I got accepted to do that program, I got to do this. So I did, and my brother had lived in New York, so I was already familiar with it. I'd played up there a few times, so I kind of had the desire to be in New York anyway. And I'm glad I did, because that the instructors at the collective at the time were amazing. That was a really incredible experience for me, because I felt like the teachers were, there was a Cuban guy who was amazing. There was a Brazilian guy who was incredible. There was a guy who was kind of a Senegalese specialist. That was kind of his main.
Oh, wow. That sounds awesome. That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. And Patitucci was just incredible as a teacher. His ears were, oh man, just that guy's just, doesn't get any better, obviously. But there were other guys I'd never even heard of. Some cats, so like Zev Katz, who was playing with Jewel at the time. I think he played with Hall & Oates after that. Greg Jones, all these other guys were just amazing. And I would go see like my teachers play. Like I'd go see my Brazilian teacher with his Brazilian quartet at this cool place, the coffee shop up in Union Square, and I'd go catch Leo Traversa, who was kind of had this whole band of Senegalese musicians down at this club downtown, and I'd go to a Brazilian place called South of Broad, which also downtown. I don't even know if it's still there, but they'd have a Brazilian drum corps. And my buddy, who was a Scottish heavy jazz cat, great upright player, we would go to like Smalls and Augie's and hang out till 4 in the morning, and then go to class the next morning.
So you're just saturating yourself in this bass lifestyle there, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, and I met like I met Ron Carter, and I met.
Oh, excellent!
Wow. I got to see him do this. I just met so many guys. It was just incredible for a kid from a small town in North Carolina to be up there. And I was living in the village, and I got lucky and got a place through a friend there. And lucked into it, just pure luck. For once in my life, I got lucky there. But so I was there for a few years, and I loved it. And I started playing with different groups, and ended up doing some sideman work with Chris Whitley, who's passed away way back in 2004 or 5. Briefly with Rufus Wainwright, and then a bunch of bands you never heard of. And one of the bands I was touring with, I ended up meeting a girl from Sweden. Just by happenstance in Houston, Texas. She was working with co-managing a pop group that's long gone with Beyonce's dad, Matthew Knowles, and he's based there. Is based in Houston, and so we were in the same hotel, met, became friends. Later, started kind of meeting up in New York and again in Austin, and started dating. And then I moved to Stockholm, Sweden. I was over there for several years, and she was in the music industry. And she really helped me out a lot to get in with some great producers that she was working with there. And I started producing some artists there. I kind of thought I was done with playing overall at that point. I didn't want to be, but I kind of got my foot in the door with an amazing studio there through my ex Lila, and studio called Dream Hill. At her first husband's place. It's an amazing, like, world-class studio that was brand new at the time. So that opened my eyes and ears to all these Swedish pop producers and engineers that were just incredible. Working with them was just a whole nother world to me. It opened up a whole nother world of music that I wasn't really privy to that much beforehand.
Okay. Was it like American music? I mean, I can't say that I know much about Swedish music.
Yeah, well, these guys had done, they had produced and co-written stuff for, individually and with other guys. Like they had both worked with Max Martin and a lot of other people. So they had worked with like Celine Dion and
I got you.
Backstreet Boys and Sync, all these huge, Katy Perry, on and on, these massive pop artists. And so they were huge pop guys and successful at it. So I got in there with an engineer that was already working with them, who's Nicholas Flick, amazing, incredible engineer. He actually designed that studio and designed microphones, and he won a Grammy over here for Britney Spears' song Toxic as a engineer, best mix or whatever. Anyway, so working with him too was just incredible for me, kind of just opened my, like I said, this was a great experience. And then I helped put a band together there, and first time in my life without really ever trying, we actually got signed relatively without having to do the club thing for years.
Yeah, cool.
Bands. It was just, I wasn't even really trying, and then finally ironically.
So what does that teach you, actually?
It says don't try so hard, I guess.
Don't try so hard, right? Just let it fall in your lap when you can, right? That's the way to go.
Yeah. Right.
So where are we at now? Where's Mason Pitts today? So how we got?
So I moved back here for a music licensing gig, and with a company out of up in New Hampshire, and then flash forward a little farther, when COVID hit, I was back in North Carolina at that point and didn't have really any work, or I'd left my licensing job and on good terms with those guys and cool company, but I didn't have any work or gigs or anything going on. So what the hell am I going to do? So I knew some friends, I had played in Charleston off and on through the years with different bands, and really always loved it. Had friends down here. So, and started talking to a couple of buddies, and they're like, man, you should come down here. The scene is amazing now. It's really just blowing up. And I looked into it, started coming down here, and I was like, man, this is amazing. I got to be here. I need to be in Charleston. So I moved here a few years back, and now I'm just playing gigs like you and all these other cats in town. I'm just trying to keep the lights on by playing gigs around town. I'm not really doing anything on the industry side anymore, so at all, but maybe I will. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I won't. But anyway, just playing gigs for now and having fun, really enjoying it, and I've met so many great guys like you, great musicians of all genres and stripes. I really think Charleston is a special place for music right now. It's pretty amazing.
Cool. Well, that gives me a lot of hope, because you've been all around the world. Actually, I didn't realize the extent of your experiences.
And some fun stuff, like all of us. I toured a lot in the U.S. before I moved to Europe, and that was awesome. But I spent a lot of time I lived in New York. That's playing in L.A. and Nashville and Austin and New Orleans and Chicago and all these music-centric cities. And I think I'd put Charleston up just in terms of live music, not necessarily the industry side, but live music. I'd pretty much put Charleston up there with about any of them. I think it's maybe even better in some ways, because I think there's a really strong community of support here between all the musicians, people from my outside in looking in on it, and just kind of being a new kid here. It really seems to be a cool, great, supportive community here of musicians. So I really like it.
And do you see the industry maybe coming here, that you're referencing?
Yeah, I think it probably will on some level. There are, obviously there's some great studios already here on that side of it. Now there's some management. There are some management agencies, companies here. So I do think it will grow on that side too. I do, I don't know that it'll ever be a Nashville or anything like that.
Right.
But does it need to be? I don't think it does really. There's some cool film stuff happening here too now. So those are a lot of interesting things going on here in Charleston.
And you were saying you don't think it needs to be. I tend to agree with that, but do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Or that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm jaded in my thinking there, but I think we already have in Nashville. We have in New York and in LA, and as well at the same time, the music industry is, as has changed so much. It's just not what it was, going back 10 and plus 15 years ago, with the whole streaming thing. So I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. I kind of like it as a live music town, really. And maybe that's just my own slant on it. But I think regardless of that, my silly opinion doesn't really matter. I think it will grow. The industry's more and more compartments of the industry will come here. Also there's a lot of great festivals here now as well,
Right.
So that's also very cool. Well, I like the live music side of it, really.
Anything that you want to mention about your live music experience, your maybe something about the bass guitar that you would like people to know about? Obviously, I've gotten so many bass players on the show lined up to go that we might cross paths with some other ideas. But I want people out there that listen to the show to hear it from the bass people.
Right. Well, live as far as live performance goes, Well, when I was in Europe, we were lucky to do some of these really large summer festivals, which particularly in Scandinavia and Northern Europe are really, well, all over Europe really, but they're really huge. Some of these things were just like, we did a couple of these big commercial radio sponsored tours and some of the cities would tie in a city festival. So it would be like 35, 40, I think one was like 50,000 people. One of the, some of these things were just massive. The whole city is there. It's crazy. And part of that in Sweden particularly is probably because of the short season. So when it's warm, people just can't wait.
So it just concentrated, right?
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. Because it's cold and or snowing part of that winter season for 9 months out of the year, so sometimes more, but 8, 9 months, whatever. But so people really look forward to and love those summer festivals, and that was an awesome experience. In that same band, we went down and filmed a video in Morocco. We're down there for about a week touring all over, touring as in for the video shoot with like up in the Atlas Mountains, and stayed in these old Casbahs and this old palace and Marrakesh, and just we had an awesome guy.
Wow.
So we did this crazy stuff, I was like, I was really fortunate to fall into that, however it happened. But these days, as far as bass goes, I tend to be writing more on guitar for the most part. I do write on bass too. I used to write more. I'll probably get back into that, hopefully. But I know you and I have talked about collaborating too, and I hope we will. But I love the bass with all my being, of course, like all of us bass players that do it for a living. I'm finding that I need to practice more. That's, I always feel like I'm
work less, practice more a little bit. I mean, it's kind of a hard balance to do sometimes.
It is. It used to work at it more, and I'm trying to get myself back into that side of it for sure. But it's a tough balance, especially late nights, and I had like you do it all the time. Like had a double yesterday and got home really late, and then the next day you're kind of dragging ass for half the day. But
and you know what? I appreciate you making some time for the show. Then I mean, I know 10 o'clock can come kind of early sometimes, and you're the first one.
Yeah, I'm honored to be on it. I really am. Thank you.
Hey man. Well, Mason, thank you for taking some time to talk to me, and hopefully we'll get you back on the show, maybe even this relatively soon. Thanks a lot, sir. All right.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, so up next on the show, we've got Alan Schmitt, local bass player who plays a lot of different projects. How you doing, Alan?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm having a good time interviewing some bass players today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate being here.
Oh, excellent. So what's going on? We're going to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started.
Yeah, I'll go through just kind of a quick backstory, how I kind of got to where I am today in my music career. I started in elementary school playing percussion, actually, was my first instrument. And then as time went on, got into high school, I played some brass instruments there. And coming out of high school, I got accepted to Berklee College of Music in Boston. I was going to go there to play guitar. But I think just being burnt out from being in school for so many years, I instead went off to join the Army, which was kind of a weird decision at the time.
That's great.
I still kind of, I still don't totally know why I did it, but hey, got me here where I am today, so I'm happy.
Exactly.
But it delayed my college a little bit, so I went to college a little bit later on, and I studied jazz guitar actually at the College of Charleston from 2010 to 2015. Got a degree in jazz there. And guitar was my instrument for many years. And I actually kind of happened upon the bass by accident. My dad had heard a young female by the name of Haley Mae Campbell singing out on Isle of Palms and really liked her voice and put her in touch with me to see about playing a gig. And I'm pretty sure he had said I was a guitar player at the time, but I had a whole phone conversation with her about a gig. She was doing an album release at the Music Farm. I was really excited because I had never played the Music Farm. And this was in February 2015. And the very end of the conversation, she says, "Oh, you play bass, right?" And I was like, "Yes."
Nice play.
Yeah. So I had a bass guitar. Did I play it? I mean, not really.
Had you ever played a
honestly.
live gig before on the bass, or?
No, I'd never played a gig on bass before. I'd only gigged on guitar. So, but I was like, hey, Music Farm, it sounded like a fun opportunity. I liked your music. So yeah, my first official bass gig was February 2015. So I guess just about 10 years ago. And then pretty quickly I realized that was really more of my strength. I think a lot of what goes into people's playing on an instrument, it's made up of other skills and other things in everyday life. I think, certain people, the way their personality is really affects their playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just I always kind of felt like I did the jazz guitar college thing as a challenge to prove to myself that I could do it. But I never felt like I was a really strong jazz, soloist or anything like that on the guitar. So once I started playing bass, and really the big draw for me was like the relationship with bass and drums.
Right, which you actually have obviously some training in. You've had training in several instruments. That's great. That's got to help.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, so much. I think I encourage everyone to do that. I think you can't really understand what another instrument does until you've taken it on and spent some time with it and played it. But yeah, at that point, I kind of stopped playing guitar, and I really don't play much guitar anymore these days. So since then, I really started playing and gigging full time, I would say in about 2019. And then I was teaching high school at the time in 2019 when I started really picking up a lot of gigs. And then over time, my schedules got busier. I was full-time teaching, full-time and, gigging, playing music around Charleston. And at one point, my calendar was just so crazy. I talked to my wife, Natasha, and I was like, hey, this isn't sustainable. Is it doing both of these things full-time? And she was like, no, it's not. And thanks to her, she fully supported me making the leap to be a full-time musician. So now it's, I guess about a year and a half, I've been just playing music full-time.
That's great.
For my income, which has been awesome. Charleston's such an amazing music city.
It's great that people can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the few cities where it's so easy to make a living playing music. Not that it's easy. It's right. Still very much a challenge, but I think the amount of work that we have in this town is, and really just kind of the way that everyone operates. Charleston's kind of known in the musical world for people just kind of throwing things together last minute. People, you show up to a gig, sometimes you might meet somebody, you might meet the whole band for the first time. Maybe you've never played with them before, and you have to figure out how to navigate a night together, trying to put on a show for the audience.
And would you say that's probably one of the bigger challenges that you face?
Honestly, I think the biggest challenge, to be totally honest, is probably dealing with a lot of different personalities and different levels of professionalism.
Okay.
Because it's, we're aware of the fact that you can make money at this, you can make a living at this, but a lot of people still don't really understand that, I think. And people don't really understand the structure of how the music scene seems to operate here in Charleston. When you tell somebody you're a musician, they're like, oh, are you in a band? And it's like, well, yeah, I'm in, this year I probably play in 20 different bands.
Right.
It's not a traditional model of I'm in this one band and that's it. That does exist in Charleston, but I think the majority of the live music in this town is not that way. So.
Right. And how are you keeping your calendar as full as you are? I mean, is it self-promotion, branding? I mean, what are the secrets there?
Yeah, great question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. For me, I try to focus on being as organized as possible. I think having the other backgrounds that I have, like being a teacher, really helps me with organization. Because I'm always the one who shows up to the gig with like a song list, or
right.
I've done my homework and I show up with things to help out other people. I print out extra set lists, that kind of thing.
Well, I think that at the end of the day too, I mean, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I mean, it seems like the bass player has to know the song.
Yeah.
You can't show up and fake, the bass line to some of these popular songs. You got to know it. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to just kind of skate by on the moment on a guitar or on a keyboard, I think, than it is on a bass, right, in most settings.
Right, where you can just kind of float over the changes, or exactly.
Yeah.
This is a bass-specific show, so don't worry about offending anybody.
All right, good. We won't let anybody else listen, right? No guitarists on here.
Right. Probably not. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's continue.
No, so yeah, bass is. I think I've learned so much, and I still have so much more to learn. But bass is such a crucial instrument, and it's funny. Even playing guitar for years and going to college and studying jazz, at the end of that, I still didn't totally understand a lot of the nuances of what the bass does. Mm-hmm. So I think it takes actually playing the instrument in that environment to really understand what works and what doesn't work, and a lot of it's about trying things out and experimenting. Mm-hmm. So one thing I've been kind of studying and focusing on, I guess recently, but the last couple of years, a lot of the work I do is playing a trio gig, right? So a trio gig means there's probably a drummer, there's probably somebody playing guitar and singing, and there's me on the bass. Obviously variations exist. There might be a keyboard player that's singing or something like that.
Right.
But in that setting where we have a trio, I think a lot about the difference between a trio and a quartet, right? If you add a fourth member, when that guitar player is taking a solo, you have a lot more options to fill that space. Right. And really, as a four-piece band, I think you have a wider dynamic range. Okay. So the thing that's been interesting to me is looking at a trio and how do trios that are really successful handle this. So I went out and did a lot of listening, and one thing, obviously, dynamics using. I think a lot of people take for granted the lower dynamics. We think about the higher dynamics. We think about getting louder. But in order for you to have dynamics, you need a range, right? So taking opportunities to drop down or drop really low or just drop out entirely, an instrument can drop out and see how that makes things feel,
Right. So you've got different tools that you're employing for different reasons in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a couple of things I've done. One thing is I started playing chords on the bass, and not, crazy elaborate jazz chords or anything like that.
Right.
But when there's a guitar player that's taking a solo, there's an immediate dynamic drop most of the time. And so to try and compensate for that, one of the things I do is play just some basic chord shapes to fill it out a little bit underneath. And that's been a fun thing to experiment with and try different things out and see what works and what doesn't work. And the other thing, actually, I bought my octave pedal from you, Sean. Thank you for that.
No problem.
I've also been using that in a lot of settings, a lot of trio settings where the guitar player is taking a solo. If I use that and some chords in combination, I can really fill out that trio sound a lot more.
Are you using the octave up on top of that, or?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so right. Yeah, usually in that kind of setting, I'll boost like the regular level, regular signal, mm-hmm. and I'll add a little bit into an octave up to try and fill out that sonic space where the guitar would be.
That's one of my favorite pedals ever, and for that very reason you just mentioned. But I play with so many keyboard players these days, I just feel like I think that's why I sold it to you, because I never was turning it on anymore.
Yeah. Keys definitely change things. Having keyboards is awesome.
Yeah. So the trio setting, what else have you noticed about it?
I think that one of the big things is like thinking about creative ways to change the sound, because again, you're limited with the number of sounds that you can make with 3 people versus 4 people or 5 people. So really focusing on the lower dynamics, where to make things really quiet will make the louds more impactful. The loud sections more impactful. And a lot of what we do in music is navigating dynamics. It's every song sort of has some sort of arc that you're following. So it's really just, I think, paying attention to that, looking for opportunities to where you can maybe drop out. Like I need to do that more myself. Just drop out on the bass and see how that, see what happens. Just experiment with it. That's the other fun thing. A lot of these gigs we're playing are out at bars, and people are just there to have a good time. They don't, they don't care if you get a little weird or experimental sometimes. So, things like dropping out, and I don't use enough effects, but I should probably use some more effects too.
I will say that I've listened to you play a lot. I've listened to you play with Malin a lot, who I had on the show a while back, and I've heard you play with Ben Whitney as well. I really appreciate your approach to the bass. When you told me about your guitar experience and some of your other experiences, it makes a lot more sense to me now, because you definitely are filling out the sound spectrum a lot. And
thanks.
And I really like the fact that whenever I hear you play, you always seem in command of what you're doing. There's not a lot of like not guesswork, but it's a very strong performance. That's what I guess what I'm trying to say. And I really appreciate your tone as well. You have a great tone.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, I know my music's so hard. It's so awesome, but it's so challenging in so many ways. And you can sit there and analyze something to death. But at the end of the day, just going out and playing is, and experimenting and trying things out is kind of my favorite approach. And then especially with bass, I think, in the role of bass in a band it's really that crossroads of rhythm and harmony. So I love the communication. There's kind of one thing I didn't realize before I played bass is when you play bass or drums, there's sort of this open communication channel between the two of you. Hopefully, if you're listening to each other.
Right.
And that's so cool. There's so much interaction and so much communication that happens in that exchange that I never really felt like I experienced it as much, or it was just different on the guitar on another instrument. So having that constant communication, because music is a language and you're communicating, you're expressing yourself. And so having that constant communication with the drummer is one of my favorite parts about playing music.
Yeah, me too. It's a must. If the drums and the bass are together, then everything else sounds wonderful, or is really easy. At the very least.
Right.
I've often kind of wondered if that's how people in horn sections feel. You know what I mean? That like that locked in kind of feeling that you're trying for. It's an interesting feeling for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing I think, just bass in general's job is to fill that lower sonic space, and I think basses really need to have good rhythm. I think that's super, super important. I think other instruments can maybe get away with not having as strong. Everyone should have killer rhythm if you're,
right.
in an ideal world, but it's so crucial. Yeah, like you said, with drums and bass, if there's something off in that relationship, then the whole thing is going to be uncomfortable for everybody, I think.
Okay. So what's going on? Future plans for Mr. Schmitt here. What is the rest of your year looking like as where you're starting off this year?
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep my calendar busy. Right now I have 3 weekly residencies, which is awesome.
Oh,
I haven't had that many before. Yeah. I play every Wednesday out at the Dinghy on Isle of Palms with Malin, Wagnon, and Dennis Ware. Usually the 3 of us anyways. We sometimes have to get it covered. That's a really fun gig, really awesome regulars, really awesome staff out at the Dinghy. And that's kind of become a home. We've been doing that. We've been playing that for about a little over 2 years now, I think.
Great.
So that's always that's my kind of the beginning of my work week usually is Wednesday. So that's my kickoff to the week, and it's always fun. Thursdays I've been playing, Henry's on the Market has a new lounge that they opened called the Ansonborough Lounge.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of a coffee shop that's right off the main restaurant.
Yeah, I kind of like that room. I think I saw y'all in there twice where I was filling in for Corey at Henry's in the other room, and I like that room. It's pretty laid back. Got a good vibe.
It's really nice. Yeah, I've been playing Thursdays there with Ben Whitney and his cousin Ryan Whitney. That's a really, really fun gig. And then Sundays I've been playing at King Street Dispensary with Grayson Lentz. And that's been really awesome.
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that name? I think it kind of glitched.
Sure. Yeah. So on Sunday nights I'm playing with Grayson Lentz.
Okay.
And that's been a really fun gig too. So those are my 3 weekly gigs right now, which I'm really happy to have. Other than that, I play a good bit with the same guys, Malin, Ben, and Grayson. I also play with Bennett Coleman a good bit around town. I play with Me and Mr. Jones. That's Elise Rogers, her project. We have a bunch of tribute shows. We're actually driving to Hilton Head in an hour or two. We're going to do the Stevie Nicks tribute out at a venue in Hilton Head called Kind of Blue. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram. I think looked great.
Yeah,
sounded good too.
Yeah, Kind of Blues are really cool. It's kind of like a dinner and a show venue in Hilton Head that I really, really recommend. It's great. Sterling is the guy that owns it and runs it, and he's awesome. It's a great place to play. I play with steel pan bands, the Holy City Steel Collective, a couple guys who I met through a past teaching job that went and studied the steel pan in college and everything. And so they play a lot of a wide variety of stuff. The Holy City Steel Collective is Nick Kelly and Ian McMichael and Misha Picard usually, if we can get enough money for a quartet. And then I've been playing more recently with Ben Somerville. So I just played with him the other night at Dispensary. He's awesome. Playing with Local Nomad, who's a guy from New York, who's an original artist, who's really, really killer. His music's awesome. Tom Mackle too. I play with him sometimes. He's got awesome original music.
Yeah, I think I've seen him play around town a couple times. Yeah, he's great.
Tom's great. Yeah, he's got some great music. It's awesome to see a lot more original artists releasing stuff in Charleston. I always push everyone to do more of that because I think it's so important.
Yeah, me too. It's hard though when you're making a living. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people on the show that it's a balance that they're trying to find for sure.
Yeah, original music doesn't pay well.
Oh, I know. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you know well with Illazilla too.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. I think we've been a 7-piece band before. I mean, you're just not doing it for money at that point, for sure.
Yeah, that's almost never for the money. But it's great that there's so much original music coming out of the scene. Your guys' music has been awesome too. The Illazilla tunes have been great.
I appreciate
that.
So
I'll always encourage more of that stuff. And then Mike Kuhn I play with sometimes too, and Brandon Lamar Simmons. Those are the main people I play with. And then in somewhat recent news, Malin Wagnon released his debut album this past Black Friday 2024. So that's now out on streaming services. It's called Suffering.
Oh yeah, we did we have a whole episode. I interviewed Malin. Oh yeah, he's it's a just me and him. I think it's like the one. There's one coming out. Well, actually, it's not going to make any sense to anybody because this recording is going to come out much later. Yeah, we did a whole like 3 or 4 songs off of it, and it's cool.
Oh, awesome!
It's great. Malin did great on the show too.
Cool. Yeah, he said he was going to go on the show with you. I didn't know that you guys had already recorded it. Awesome.
And we got to record it at Fairweather, which was great because it sounded much better.
Oh, no way!
Yeah, and we got to talk about the recording process that went into that, which was great. I mean, that was
awesome.
Actually, to be honest with you, I've played with Malin a few times, subbing for third subs, you know what I mean, or whatever. But I never really got to hear a lot of his original music, and then I heard the recording come out, and I was like, man, I like the songs a lot. Like I walked around singing several of them for days.
Nice.
But my the thing that drawed me to it right off the bat was the sound of the album. To me, sounded real. A lot of the albums that I hear come out around here, myself included, actually, because just the way that you have to record sometimes on digital workstations and passing files back and forth and all that. I mean, it loses a little bit. And then I heard that album, I was like, man, that actually sounds like a band playing songs. It's great.
It was a wild experience. It was very stressful because we were, as I'm sure the other episode will mention, we recorded everything live. There's only 2 microphones, 2 fancy Coles ribbon mics capturing up to I think there was 7 people on one song. And it was high stakes. We had to practice a lot and really get that stuff down. Yeah, but it was a great experience. And I love Malin's music so much.
And you came through shining on that in my opinion.
Oh,
the bass sounds great, and And after
Thank you
this
so much.
interview, we're going to hear a couple selections from that, and we'll probably listen to something.
Yeah.
So I think the ones that you sent were not the ones that we discussed on the show, so that'll be even better. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
Alan, I'm going to have to leave it at that. Thank you for making time talking to us here, and maybe you can come back later. I'd kind of like to get Ben on the show. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah, maybe you and Ben could come on, and the three of us could sit down here in the next few weeks or something.
Yeah, I'm in. Count me in. And
right.
I know he'd be in too. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thank
you so much for having me. I really appreciate you really just doing this podcast, having another media, another outlet for, more information about Charleston's music scene is really, really awesome. So I'll just keep up the awesome work.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate you.
All right.
I don't want to live forever in the cold and the dark. Don't want to go to heaven, never left my mark on anything.
All right, so next on the show today, we've got Sandip Roy, local bass player. He plays in a lot of bands around town. He plays with Hans Wenzel and Mr. Fahrenheit, the Queen tribute band, as well as other projects. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me in the program.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for taking some time out and sitting and talk to us about all things bass guitar. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got here, how you got started in Charleston, your story?
So like my story is kind of a long one, but I'll try to just say the gist of it. Like, all right, I moved to USA in 2013,
Yep.
So, like basically I moved because I met my wife in 2008 when I was touring USA with my band from India. So that's how.
Okay, was that the band called Cactus? Was that the band you were in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I was touring with my band, and here, in one show in Atlanta, I met my wife. So from there, things started happening, and we spoke, and we got married in India, and then we had to decide what we're going to do. Am I going to stay in India or am I going to move? She's got a lot of stuff here. So eventually I decided to live my life as a touring and recording musician for last 15 years till 2013.
Okay.
And I moved to USA.
Uh-huh.
So we moved to Florida, where she was living at that point of time. Then I moved to Charleston in 2016.
Okay, what brought you to Charleston?
Well, because we moved here from Florida.
I mean, why did you come here from Florida?
Yeah, because my wife is from Charleston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, my ex-wife, now, when I moved here, again, it's very difficult to, for a complete, immigrant to start something. But I got lucky. I met one bass player. I'm sure you all know, David McIntyre.
Yeah.
He was a good friend. He introduced to me to one band called Dead on Time. We were a heavier band, we used to play a lot of Tool and stuff. So I got into that band, and we did some originals, and I think in 2018 we won the Battle of the Bands, and we opened 98 Rock, and we opened for Cedar, 3 Days Down, a lot of all those national, in Rock Fest.
Right.
So that was then COVID happened. All the band, I was not playing then. So after COVID, one friend of mine, Joe Fisher, he got in touch with me.
to play with him, and I joined Pop Rock Cult. So that's how I met Mike Desta, the drummer. And then when he and Hans started Mr. Fahrenheit, they asked me if I want to join. And that's how I started playing with Hans.
Okay.
And
Was you a big Queen
that,
fan your whole life, or just kind of fell into it with those
of
guys?
course, yeah, like John Deacon. Like I was always into like, bands from UK, like always like Who, Beatles, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
You know
Yeah.
the typical bass player
Yeah.
thing, and obviously Rush. That
Right.
was like, yeah. So yeah, I was always into like I was always into rock music. I never like wanted to try something. I started off playing bass also in a very weird way. When I was in like 8th standard, my school friends, they wanted to start a band, and they have everyone. Someone wants to sing, someone wants to play drums, someone wants to play guitar. They don't have a bass player, and so one of my friends asked,
that seems to be a running theme. Actually, is that like that's how I got
yeah,
into bass too. I wanted to be in a band, and the guys I knew needed a bass
yeah.
player, so that's what I played.
And so my friend asked me, "You are doing nothing. Why don't you play the bass?" And I was like, "What is that?" And in India, in the like 89 or 87, I don't remember. Like bass guitar is like an alien instrument,
Okay.
like rock music is not like accepted in India in the 80s. It was a very underground thing.
Okay.
So like, so when they asked me play bass, I said okay, sure, and then I was like okay. They said it's a 4-string instrument. You just have to play with one note, and it's very easy. I'm like okay, I can do that. So you can understand. Like I was like, so we were all listening to Pink Floyd, AC/DC, and like I was like, oh my god, I'll be playing the bass. So I got interested, and obviously in India, typical like middle class family, you don't do anything. All you do is either become an engineer or a doctor or a management guy. So
Okay.
obviously my parents was like, not my parent, my mom was like furious because my mom was like, if you do that, then I won't be able to show my face to anyone. My family will, and yeah, because in India
Well,
it's like,
that's heartbreaking.
oh yeah, because in India you either become a doctor because all my cousins are
Right. So
huge
you were
software.
expected to become a professional then
Yeah,
of some
so
kind.
like all
Okay.
my cousins are huge. Even my younger brother, he's a huge software guy, and I'm like the black sheep of the family. No one likes me. And then, that's how I started playing bass. And the first song I learned was Breaking the Law because we were supposed to play 3 songs for the competition. So the first song was Breaking the Law. Then, and it was like,
So
okay,
mom
I
probably
was.
didn't like that song at all, did she?
Oh, my mom I used to listen to music in my Walkman in a cassette. Remember those days?
Oh
We
yeah.
used to have cassette and in a Walkman. So that's how I used to listen. I used to pretend that I'm doing my homework with my headphones on. It was like in India, like doing something apart from academics. It's really, really, really difficult. Like your family like will throw you out of the house, and
Oh wow.
it's like that. Yeah, like my mom was like super 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 against it, but I have to do this is what I want to do. So actually, like slowly my band in India, like the first band that I started, it was an original English band called Wise. And in 90s when MTV came to India, the whole thing changed. Rock music suddenly become the like youth music.
Okay.
So my band got we used to write songs, and like there was a magazine called The Great Indian Rock. So that magazine used to have a compilation cassette every year. Bands from all over country will submit their song, and the second volume of that version of that CD, my band Wise the first song album was our song.
Okay.
So so MTV used to have a concert for that. So MTV did a video for us and all this. So like things started getting, and we were like getting, and then in 2000, when like we were all like doing music, and then that is the time when everyone decided, okay, now it's time, we have to get serious with our lives. So obviously everybody left to get into either software, the management, someone got into newspaper.
But you stayed with
But
the
I
bass,
was
though.
still
Yeah.
I was still being a dumbass and doing that. And so
Well,
like
let me ask you.
got
Let me ask you this though. So, does mom still? Is she still mad at you about your career path, or does she accept it now?
Okay, I will come to that after this one.
Okay.
So in 2000, I lost my dad. My dad passed away. And so I was that point of time, I decided, okay, enough of music. Now I have to get serious. I have to take care of my mom and my younger brother because I don't have my dad anymore. And that was the point where I was about to give up music. The Cactus, the original bass player, left, and they were doing audition for a bass player. So, like, they are my friends also. So the guitar player called me and asked me, "Do I wanna come for audition?" I said, "Shh, I'm not very sure. I don't want to do music anymore because I have to take care." He said, "Still come over." So I went and I played 3 songs, and after a week they called me back. Okay, so we have a show in one college outside of our like city where I am from, Calcutta. We will come. The bus will pick you up, and we'll go. I said, okay. So they said, this is how much money you will get. And I said, oh shit, this is fucking good money, better money than if I will get by working somewhere.
Right.
So I agreed. So they picked me up. Like obviously they gave me all the songs which I need to learn. So I learned. And so I went to this college and we were playing, and then when the announcer announced that Cactus coming to stage, that whole place went like crazy. There was about 17,000 people.
How many people?
And 17,000 people.
Okay.
That was my first, because that point of time, Cactus did it was in a Bengali movie. So they're like,
Okay. They were the thing. They were huge at the time.
They're like a household name. Then.
Okay.
The songs from that movie called Nil Nil Jone was like number one all over in all FM radio station. So the first show, I was playing all underground places, and suddenly in front of that crowd, I was like all cool. I'm like, okay, this is my last show with them. I will be all over the place. So after the show, the guy, while I was coming back, they said, do you want to join the band? And that was like, holy shit. What? And that's how, and then it became history. Like, Cactus is one of the biggest vernacular rock band of India. And you can understand a band in 1.4 billion population,
right?
What it means. It's huge, and because it's vernacular rock, because we sing in our language, it's like rock music here. Everybody understands. It's like household.
Right.
So now I come to your point. What was my mom's? So when I joined Cactus and every newspaper and everything, because obviously a new member joining, so all new pictures in all local newspaper, television and stuff. And then all my family members started calling my mom, oh my God, I saw him in the TV. And then my whole life changed. That's what's like. Then my mom was okay.
Well,
she was happy, she started being proud. But I don't have my mom anymore. She also passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So at the end of the day, she was proud and happy.
Oh, that's great. That's great that she got to see that. You got to see that too.
Oh, yeah.
So
That was.
let me ask you this. So when you think about the bass guitar, what is it about the bass guitar that you like? I mean, you've been playing it in a lot of different situations, in a lot of different countries, big crowds, small crowds. What keeps you coming back to the bass guitar after all these years?
So as I told you, when my friend told me what bass guitar, I was like completely like, what is it? So from there, and then I got into, okay, the story, the history of bass guitar. And, being in India, getting music, like if I want to listen to some Jaco Pastorius, it's not that easy. I can go and get it in any store,
Okay.
It's in the 80s, it was really difficult.
Right.
Because there was only one place in Calcutta called Free School Street, where there was this line of record store which is to sell, and you have to go and tell them, hey, I need this album by this, and they will get it for you. So this is how. So after when I thought of being a bass player, my friends say, hey, listen to this guy, listen to Geddy Lee from Rush. So obviously I got hooked into Rush and everything that is bass heavy, like typical every bass player follows.
Yeah, like you were mentioning Iron Maiden earlier. That's huge.
Oh my God, I have seen them 5 times in my life, and I'm happy. I went I think 2 months back. I went to Charlotte to see them.
They still got it.
Oh God, they still got it. They're the beast. They're the beast. Can't help it. So, if you ask me what bass player is, I never wanted to be a solo bass player or anything. It was always like playing for the song. So if you listen to all the recordings I did, the bass lines are they're creative bass line, but at the end of the day, it's it makes the song what the song is supposed to be,
right?
Backing the song. I'm always a very anything that is groovy, that touches me.
Okay.
I love anything that is groove is what touches me. I'm like a real groovy, groove playing is what I love,
Okay. You like being in the groove. I understand that completely.
Yes. Yeah. And of course you will anything that makes you move is what I'm into.
So what do you got going on ahead for the rest of the year? I know that you're playing with Hans still. Do you got any other projects that you're a part of, or what else are you doing?
So recently, few friends of mine were talking about they want to do something. So REM is one very favorite band of mine, and I really love Mike Mills' bass playing.
Okay.
Because he is So we have a something that this is new. We haven't played any show or anything, but we are working on a REM tribute thing.
That's
so
great.
I'm really excited and looking forward. And the most exciting thing is, since I moved to USA, I have not done any backing vocals. I just didn't.
Right.
But with this REM, I am doing a lot of Mike Mills backing vocals. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that.
That's cool. Yeah, you kind of surprised me there. You were talking about Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, and now you're talking about REM. That's kind of how I am too, though. I like it all. Are you guys doing South Central? Are you guys doing South Central Rain?
Oh yes.
Oh, I love that song. That's a great song.
Oh my God. Yeah, what an amazing bass line for that song also.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
So that is something I'm looking forward to. In future, I want to really play some Jamiroquai music. I'm sure you are into.
Oh yeah. Jamiroquai, sure.
I want to do something. I really want to do some Jamiroquai stuff. It's one of my very, very favorites.
Yeah, you should start a Jamiroquai tribute band and help bring that band back a little bit, right? I'm serious. I mean, that's hard music.
What?
Yeah, that's hard.
Oh God! Oh my God! Stuart Zender and Paul Turner.
Yeah, that'd be great though. It'd be fun.
Oh my God! Yeah, that would be awesome. we should do all bass player playing one song. Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
10 song like list. Every bass player, we get few bass players and everyone playing one song. That will be fun.
That would be fun. That would be fun. It would be a much better way of tackling all that bass playing too.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Every song is like a bass encyclopedia.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you can learn a lot about bass guitar learning that guy's his language. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, if you ask me, I have no theoretical knowledge. Like when I started, I just started learning, scales.
Right.
Like major and minor scale, then pentatonic scale, then chords in playing acoustic guitar. That's all. Then, we got, the first time I got that Stuart Ham, remember that VHS bass lesson?
I never saw his lesson. I liked his basses though. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first time when I started learning. Getting all those techniques, like harmonics, some slap techniques. That's how I started learning. Obviously now with time we have got into theories and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can understand what's going on where. But when I started, it was like I'm in the dark. Not that I have learned music in my school or anything. Nothing like that. It's just wanted to do it. And that's how I moved forward.
Well, Sandip, thank you for having some time to tell us your story and talk a little bit about bass with us. I appreciate you doing that for us.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's such an honor. I know all these guys, Alan, Booty, they're so talented and they're so amazing guys also.
Oh, so, yeah. I'm really lucky that so many of Charleston's bass players have decided to do this show. I can't believe it.
Yes.
We have a pretty good community actually, and
yeah. These guys are so friendly also, and that's what. And thank you for having me. Thank you for considering me. It's a great honor, and I hope to hang with you sometime soon.
That would be great. Well, thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, man. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. All right, so next on the show, we've got Vasily Punsalan, local bass player that most people have heard playing reggae around town. He plays a lot of different instruments, a lot of different genres, I'm sure, but we know him as the reggae man in town here. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Hop, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having some time for us. I appreciate that.
Oh, man, yeah.
We'll talk a little bit of bass with you. So, how did you get started here in this lovely town of Charleston? Where are you coming from?
Oh man, that's a cool story. Yeah, I basically was going to college in a small school called Radford University, Radford University in Southwest Virginia. I needed to do an internship to complete my degree. And it was actually in recreation parks and tourism, and one of the former alumni came and spoke to us about doing our internship. She was like, "Yeah, I was down in Charleston. I loved it." I was like, "Whoa, cool!" And I kind of had in my head I met somebody from Charleston way back, and I'm like, "Man, he's kind of my style." I bet it's real similar to where I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, and Tidewater, Virginia. And so anyway, I started looking around where I could do an internship. I wanted to specialize in special events. And I looked at the city of Charleston and I saw that there was the Office of Cultural Affairs.
Okay.
And on the website, what they did, this is back in 2002, actually, when I was, investigating this. And one of like the big programs that they put on was something called a reggae block dance.
Okay.
So I was like, wow.
That sounds fun.
They're putting on reggae concerts. I want to intern there. And basically, turns out they had like the whole intern program. And so I just applied, and I drove down from Radford and interviewed. And so you got to imagine, man, like coming from like Virginia, it's just like, it's like any town USA in Tidewater, Virginia. It's just like ranchers, there's
right.
like a downtown, it's a big naval community. There's the Virginia Beach and the boardwalk and, that sort of thing. But like, there's some culture, but it's like all of a sudden you just start seeing, you pull down Meeting Street off of 26 and you're just like, what is this, America? Like, like you're looking at the architecture and it's just
right. It's stunning for sure. Especially when you just show up here. I felt the same way.
Yeah. So long story short, I was able to, land that internship and found my way like in staying on Folly Beach, and just didn't know anybody and just fell in love with the town. And then musically, I had only been playing bass really for a couple years.
Okay. Was that your first instrument, the bass?
2 or 3 years. No, actually I was, I started playing in a reggae band. I started playing like auxiliary percussion.
Okay.
So like I grew up luckily in Virginia Beach and in Norfolk, like there was like a good reggae scene. And, I just fell in love with the music there. And there was a local band where the percussion player had like that full rack.
Right.
Percussion, instruments like wood blocks and cowbells and flexitone and vibroslap and kabas.
Nice. He brought it all to the show.
Yeah. So nice. So a couple buddies, they're like, man, we want to start this band. We know how much you like the music. Why don't you play percussion? So I kind of like took stock of what he did, and basically like went to this like rehearsal, and they had like a wood block, one of those red wood, plastics, like LP wood blocks.
Yeah.
And I just figured out a way to fit in to the groove.
Right.
Just knocking on this wood block. And we went downstairs, and it was like we recorded it on like, cassette recorder, and then like went down on the stereo downstairs, popped it in, and we were just like, this sounds awesome.
Cool.
We were like, we made all these demos, and we were just like, we would go back in the dorms. We were like letting everybody listen to it. We're making everybody listen to like these recordings we cut, and at that point I just was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I can't believe I was like, I'm in the band. Like, I didn't think this was going to happen. So yeah. So no, bass was not my first instrument. It was percussion, but I think percussion helped me. It helped me on my way with bass playing because it made me fit into places where no one was playing. Like in reggae, there's so much space, right?
Right.
And so I tried to occupy a place, and I tried to not like over embellish, overplay. And I feel like that really helped with, timing and groove and just knowing, like understanding your role, and which is like important in bass playing, right?
Right.
Not that you want to be repetitive necessarily, but you just, with that, I found it easy to like, maybe that's how that transition happened.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of logical sense, actually. That's great, man. So one instrument informed the other. That's pretty cool. Did you take lessons to get to get good on bass, or did you just start hacking away at it?
So picked up the bass in the band room, and the guitar player was able to kind of show me some lines, but I didn't, have like, he wasn't showing me technique and things like that. So so like one summer in Norfolk, I did take like one summer of bass lessons, and the guy was just such a good teacher and so encouraging. It was just like, he was loving what I already knew, because I guess maybe he kind of taught a bunch of beginners. So he was just like, man, you're my best student.
Right.
This is all, he's like, you got it, but then he kind of showed me, hey, here's these basic scales, here's some technique, so yeah. So a lesson at age 21.
Right.
Is when it just like, it started to get serious, where I just wanted to practice and get better at it. And
what were some of those first things you were learning? Like, who were the bass players you were listening to there at the beginning?
Oh, so it was definitely, it was Aston, Familan, Barrett.
Right.
It was,
Robbie Shakespeare, probably, right?
It was Robbie Shakespeare.
Yeah.
It was Flabba Holt. It was also, a reggae band called John Brown's Body. So
that's an old school band. Absolutely.
Yeah, so a bass player named David Gould.
Okay.
This bass player, he's definitely somebody that I looked up to. He actually changed his middle name to Solid. He's like his heritage is like he's like Jewish, and his last name is Gould.
Right.
Gould. But like he got given the name Solid, like kind of like Solid Gold.
Yeah, sure.
That he legally changed his name to David Solid Gould, and he's like the general to me. I mean, this man, talk about groove, talk about like being able to play melody, talking about like sitting in the pocket. Like, it was him on bass. The drummer's name is Tommy Benedetti, and they sing them live, like, play like real tube amplifiers and
right.
analog and like a Hammond B3 and horn section on stage. That was very different from the reggae, like even a lot of the Jamaican artists, or like, bigger artists like Israel Vibration, they were using a lot of like digital, like horn patches and stuff. Like, that was my first time really like seeing
it raw, right? Seeing it authentic.
Yeah, they were really trying to tap into that 70s stuff, and like I was like, whoa. So learning, it was like the foundation, and then it was like this American band too, that like I was trying to learn some of those bass lines.
It's cool.
As well. And then like, fortunately, like, so that band that I was in, we were doing like all originals. So either the guitar player was showing me bass lines, which were really good.
Oh, that's nice.
Or like, and the drummer was solid too. Like, I know I definitely want to touch on the importance of like the interplay with a drummer in reggae.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, man. So basically, I definitely credit like how far I've come with being able to play with good drummers, being like steady drummers, drummers that did their own research and like had good ears, and just kind of what was it, dissected what was it they liked from their favorite music, and translated it into like, in this specific instance at first band, it was a drummer named Justin Matthew Cooney, who just was solid. You know what I mean? And so
you got your sense. You got a sense of rhythm from playing with these really experienced, really tight drummers.
I think so. And you know, fast forward to moving to Charleston, it was like more of the same. It was like John Picard, you know, and I think a guy named, I think his name was Lawrence or something. It was like Quentin Baxter's understudies and stuff like that. Like,
wow,
like really like hard hitting, like solid drummers in Charleston. Going, you know, I moved out. I did a stint out in California. There was a drummer named Sonny Romero out there that was just like a metronome. You know what I mean? And just but like had the feel, you know. And so, yeah, I feel like when that is like, and then that being said, like I've also played with like drummers that kind of, you know, weren't as disciplined, you know what I mean? And you definitely notice a difference, you know? So that was like always something that I've always seeked out is just good drummers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's where a good band starts from. If the rhythm section is great, then everything else is just icing on the cake, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's just we can't carry it, you know, at all. It definitely it starts with a drummer, and so they make you look good in a way. You know what I mean? But they like you are doing your thing. We're adding to it, but it's just it's just like if you just can have that fun interplay, it's great. And a lot of what I do is live. It's rare these days for me to be in the studio, but a lot of my enjoyment definitely comes from like that live performance, where it's kind of just anything can happen.
Now, whenever I see you play live around town, one of the things that like I probably have told you a lot, I know I told you that before we even started recording today, is your sense of tone is just fat and wonderful. And the track that you sent that we're gonna play on the show here is just a good example of that. How do you get that tone? What are you doing?
Well, I think you're kind of starting with what can you do with your bass guitar, right? To just achieve like a warmth and a fatness and a presence. And so for me, it kind of really starts there, you know, kind of adjusting your tone in your bass, going with the flats for me. I know that you can get really big. I mean, if you EQ round wounds, you know, they can maybe even get more fatter. But it's that, it's, you know, yeah, definitely adjusting your amp correctly. But like I went all in on tubes as well for a period of time. I had like an old vintage Ampeg SVT. And I had the fridge too. I had the
I think I've seen you play with the fridge before, actually, back in the day.
Like it was like, and you know, some of my early bands, they didn't have subs, so it's like you kind of had to like carry that,
right?
So it was always just trying to just early on try to give that bulldozing feel on your own with your own backline, your bass, and
right,
string choice and stuff like that. But I think like what's kind of fascinating me nowadays really is like trying to get the perfect mid-range, like understanding that you can have like all the low end and stuff like that, but like really like I'm kind of coming to learn that the mid range is really how you're hearing the note definition.
Yeah, it's where all the power in the bass is that mid range for sure.
Right. Right. So I'm just like, and I think like that is the benefit of flat wounds with using the neck pickup on a jazz bass, or what I'm hearing, and I want to get one. I've never owned one, a P bass.
Yeah.
Right. It's the P bass with the flats is the presence
And the attack
in
too.
the mix, right?
Yeah.
And the attack. Yeah. So I'm really fascinated and just wanting to understand more about mid range, like in nowadays. So
Yeah, I think you're right. You nailed it, because back in the day, I remember you're right. There wasn't a lot of subs, and you had to just pretty much crank that bass side of your EQ and hope for the best, and blow speakers, and but you can get a lot more out of a rig without
use
that.
the wrong head on the wrong cabinet.
Yeah.
Add cabinets and like blowing your amp. Yeah.
So what's coming down the pipe for you this year, man? We're at the beginning of the year. The show will probably come out in March, I'd say, sometime in March. Yeah. What you got going on this year?
Well, this is going to come out afterwards, but what occupies the start of the year is our annual Bob Marley tribute, and that's where we pay homage to the king of reggae, but like a lot of us are kind of nerds about the Wailers band too, so it gives us an opportunity to really kind of play our role in the band in a way. But as far as the rest of the year, it's just gonna be hopefully booking shows regionally.
And who are you playing with right now the most?
I'm trying to really prop up Operation Irie,
right?
Which started in Charleston with John Picard on drums, and it started also with Mark Ackles, which is like a corners, like I'm trying to think of the right word, like key figure in South Carolina reggae, on keyboards and vocals. Another keyboardist, Michael Root,
okay,
which is just a phenomenal keyboardist and just has great tone, and just like came out of nowhere.
He's a local guy.
Already has like toured, has already played on some big shows. He's also the keyboardist for the band Signal Fire.
Oh, cool.
So, and then the singer Monsoon has moved here. Monsoon Bedward. He is a Jamaican roots dancehall artist, really established up in DC and down in Florida. And it's just like, whew.
And you guys will get in the studio with this? Or?
Yeah. So it's really like where I see this year is just propping up Operation Irie, getting in the studio, really flexing our reggae talent and just giving it a go on just like booking big shows, getting in the studio, just kind of establishing ourselves as like a standard.
Right. Yeah, you guys, I think I heard you guys play down on Folly a while back. I can't remember. Yeah, it was sounded great, man. And
did it?
Man,
yeah.
Sounds like you got a good year planned to me.
Yeah. It's cool, man. It's cool. We love playing stage shows. It's just gonna be interesting to see, like, what can come in the studio, what can come creatively.
And what studio do you guys typically work out of, if you don't mind me asking? I'm kind of shopping around myself these days.
Oh man, I'm not really hip to like what's out there. Like other people probably know better than me.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
same here. I don't really know.
yeah. Like we just typically it's like it's members of the band that just we can kind of like piece together things. But hopefully we can get in somewhere.
That's cool, man. Well, thanks for taking some time to talking to me, and good luck.
Thanks, man.
Good luck on this great year. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, it's like, I mean, I'm so thankful for the community here in Charleston. You know, people like you that just that want to just shine a light on what's happening here, and just like, you know, just thankful to just talk bass, talk music. You know, if there's any, you know, anything that I could do for you or anybody in the community, just
I can think of one thing. You need to come back on the show and do some Operation Ivory talk. I had
cool
Picard on the show a couple episodes back.
Awesome.
Well, I'll talk to you later, man. Have a good day.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir. So up next on the show, we've got local bassist Bobby Hogg. He was just on the show a couple episodes back with Andy Greenberg, and we've brought him back to talk about bass playing. How's it going today, Bobby?
Good, thanks, and thank you for having me.
All right. Well, what would you like to share with our listeners today about your experiences with the bass in general? Or
yeah, I could kind of talk about my story a little bit and how either I'm not sure if I chose bass or bass chose me, but for whatever reason, I play a lot of bass gigs these days because I'm also a guitarist and I dabble in a little banjo and some other things. But lately, I feel like most of my gigs in Charleston are on mostly electric bass and then some upright bass, depending on the gig.
Oh, that's cool. Do you play upright jazz or bluegrass or both?
More bluegrass, folky, alt country kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
I did study some jazz at College of Charleston 20 years ago, and I was in the jazz department, and I was playing guitar at the time, and then went back a few years later and was playing bass, electric bass then. So I did study a bit of jazz, but on upright, I'm pretty much more along the lines of kind of bluegrass and that kind of stuff.
Right, and
a little bit easier than jazz.
You sing a little bit with that as well, right? I mean, I know that you're a singer as well, so yeah.
Yeah, I do sing also.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so I got my first guitar when I was, I think, 10 for Christmas, acoustic. It was an acoustic Yamaha from BJ's in Virginia.
Nice.
And I really just instantly was very interested in it and took lessons and was very much a guitarist for the first 10 years of my musical life or journey or whatever you want to call it. And I was really into it. Again, taking a lot of lessons. We moved a couple times. My dad was in the Navy, so we would move every few years. But I stuck with it and stuck with taking lessons, and definitely considered myself a guitarist. And I thought, well, this is what I want to do with my life, is play guitar, specifically 6-string guitar.
Right.
And then came to College of Charleston in 2002 and met some cool guys in the music department there. And
are they still there? Are those people still there? Or?
Elliot Genther still lives here in town, and he plays mandolin and guitar in a few bands. And then John Ely and Ryan Steinwedel, we called them Noodles. They moved. They're not in Charleston anymore, but they're still playing music. And we became friends and had a gig right away. And our first gig, it was all 4 of us on guitar. It was at a place called Cafe Zupa downtown on Warren Street, 17 Warren Street, because after Cafe Zupa closed, it changed name to 17W, and then it became Ponavino. I'm not sure what it is now, but we had our first gig there. The band was called Swiftwater Rescue, and there was 4 guitarists, right? So after our first gig, which was a blast,
everybody playing lead at the same time, or
yeah, sure. I mean, we were like 19.
Of course.
We may or may not have been pounding PBRs.
Nice.
It was a lot of fun. But after that first gig, it was like, that was awesome. Let's keep doing it. But we should probably kind of, figure out, because 4 guitars, it's a lot of guitars.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I kind of wanted to try something new. So I said, hey, I'm going to try playing some bass on our next. And because right after that first gig, we were playing there every Thursday. That was it. After the first one, the owner we became friends with him, and he was like, hey, bring your friends in here, play here every Thursday. And we did for like a year. So starting that next week, I borrowed an electric bass from a friend in the dorm I was with. And my dorm, I was in the dorm with him, and he had a Fender bass that I kind of just borrowed. I commandeered it for a while and just started figuring it out. And immediately knew, okay, well, this is the way to get gigs in a town like Charleston, is to diversify,
Right.
And there's a million good guitarists. So I figured, well, if I can play bass, then maybe some other instruments too, I can get more gigs. And that worked, And so, but the funny thing was, coming in from a guitar background, I was very much, playing guitar with a pick, of course, rock, blues, a little bit of jazz, jam band stuff, whatever. So I told myself, well, if I'm going to start playing bass, I really want to be a bassist. I don't want to just be a guitarist that owns a bass and kind of plays it like that. So I said from the beginning, I'm going to play bass with my fingers. That's the way, in my mind at the time, I thought, well, that's the way it should be done,
And like we were talking before, that there is some sort of like general idea that's how you do it, like that's the way or something. Yeah.
Well, obviously depending who you talk to.
Exactly.
And so for the first, that was in 2002. I'd say for like at least 6 or 7 years after that, or even more than that, probably till 24. So yeah, 12 to about 10 or 12 years. My first 10 or 12 years of playing bass, I would not play it with a pick. I said, no, I'm not. I already play with a pick on guitar. I'm good at that, and I could just do it. But I said, I'm gonna play bass with my fingers. I want it to be different. Even though a lot of the guys I was listening to, like Phil Lesh and Mike Gordon, even Paul McCartney.
Great pick players, yeah.
Yeah, they all play with a pick, but I thought, and that's great. I thought it's good for them, but for me, I want to be a real bassist that plays with my fingers. And that was great, and I learned how to play bass with my fingers, and I still do that occasionally too. But lately, I guess my point is, I actually play with a pick more. And that decision came probably when I joined Runaway Gin, and I think it was 2014. And I said, okay, well, if I'm going to be playing in a Fish tribute band, Mike Gordon's, his pick playing is kind of what his sound is, Yeah,
a lot of attack, really quick, a lot of really clear notes, a lot of fast passages. It kind of works to his benefit for sure, yeah.
And you could say the same for Phil Lesh, and I was already playing a lot of Grateful Dead stuff with Reckoning, but with my fingers. Specifically, what made the Mike Gordon and the Fish stuff different is when he plays with a pick and he has his effects on, right? So if he has his auto wah, his synth pedals, his flanger, whatever, playing a pick with that effect just accentuates the effect even so much more because the attack is right there.
Right.
Finger playing is great, but if you're playing with an auto wah, it's just kind of a mellow kind of thing.
That's true.
Doesn't open as quick. When you're playing with a pick, it's a boom. Or your synth pedals, right? You hit that pick right on the downbeat, and it's just like the attack is so much stronger. So I said, well, maybe playing with the pick isn't too bad. I might give it a shot. And so that was 12 years ago, and I still do go back and forth. Some gigs definitely are more kind of finger style, reggae music, maybe bluegrass, things that just you want a big fat low end like that.
Right.
Kind of a mellower. Yeah, thump, a mellower tone, maybe even put a sponge under the strings if you're, playing electric bass to get that mellow kind of warm. But, more times than not these days, if I'm on a gig, whether it's a Reckoning gig, which is a Grateful Dead tribute, or Bears Gone Fishing, which is Grateful Dead, Fish, and Widespread Tribute, or even wedding gigs. I do a lot of wedding gigs with a few different bands, Travis Allison Band, Dave Landia Band. I'm kind of to a point where I just would rather play with a pick these days. And it seems a little bit more rare. A lot of amazing bassists in Charleston. They're all, a lot of them are really good friends of mine. And that's a cool thing about Charleston music scene is that like everyone's pretty friendly. It doesn't seem like it's super competitive.
Right.
Because what you could look at it one side and say, all right, well, there's these bassists and we all are kind of, if you want to be honest about it, we all are kind of competing for gigs in a way.
Yeah.
But I don't think I don't look at it that way. And I don't think they do either. I think it's like we're all just kind of friends and we sub each other's gigs. And if I'm sick, someone will fill in for me or vice versa. And it seems like a really good community.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane that you can actually pick up gigs. Like there's times where I'll just, if I want to go work and I'm not, I can just put it on Facebook and usually get a gig.
Oh, yeah.
What other town can you do that?
Right. And so a lot of the bassists that I'm referring to, though, in Charleston, I could be wrong. I mean, someone maybe will correct me, but I feel like most guys play fingerstyle, which is awesome. But once I started kind of accepting the pick more, Runaway Gin and other gigs, I thought, hey, well, this is kind of a way to have my own little unique thing that it seems like a lot of other guys in town aren't doing.
You're differentiating yourself, for sure.
Yeah, for better or for worse. I mean, that's the funny thing is I've had conversations with other musicians, like non-bassists, and be like, yeah, do you think, like, if I get hired on a gig as a sub or something, I'm like, you think would they prefer pick or fingerstyle? And the answer is usually like, no one cares. Do whatever you want. Whatever to get the job
What do you
done.
hear back from some of the sound men and stuff in town? Do they compliment that or?
I have asked one sound guy. I mean, I've probably asked more, but the one I remember, I was playing at the Commodore, and we were sound checking, and I remember I specifically said, like, hey, what sounds better? And he was like, honestly, but they both sound the same to me. He's like, you're probably hearing it different, but out front, it all sounds the same.
It all sounds like bass.
Yeah, and he was like, both sounds great, because up on stage, I have my cab. I'm probably hearing more highs. Like out front, he was probably dumping me through the subs, and it was all low end, So
right.
So I guess my point is, it's interesting how, I don't know, I don't feel any of this from local musicians. Like I said, all bassists or even any instrument, I play guitar on gigs too, and so much camaraderie between musicians here in Charleston, so it's great. But I do on the online forums, which everyone's online warrior, and I'm on some bass forums online.
Are you talking about Talk Bass in particular?
Talk Bass, or there's some things on Facebook too, and a lot of it's kind of joking, but a lot of it's kind of serious, and people are like, oh, pick style bass isn't real bass. Real bassists play with their fingers, and it's like, it's funny.
Do you ever wonder if those people are actually working bassists? You know what I mean?
That's a good point, and I asked that exact question when I first got on Talk Bass like 10 years ago. I didn't really know it existed, and I got on it, and Matt Thompson, local bassist, because he was telling me about it. He's like, there's this great online forum called Talk Bass, and I got on there, and I noticed, like, wow, everyone's kind of talking shit, and like everyone's full of opinions and this and that, and I was talking about it. He was like, yeah, but you realize, like, most of these people, like, don't play gigs. They're just kind of like talking a lot and don't really know what they're talking about. I was like,
instrument collectors.
Yeah, which is, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But it was like, don't listen to their opinions.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of stuff with people saying, well, you should use your fingers, or, and the obvious answer is, do both. I mean, be able to have as many things in your arsenal as you can get in there, so you're versatile. And ironically, the first Fender basses were supposed to be played with your thumb.
Yep.
Do you know this history?
Oh yeah, You put your thumb, your hands on the little guide rail they had there.
Yeah, the
right?
pull. Well, I mean, but just I guess if anyone else is listening, so like, now a Fender bass will have a thumb rest. Oh, they don't all, but you could put one there where whatever, rest your thumb and play with your fingers. But back then, it was called like a tug bar, which was a thumb rest under the strings.
Yeah, the tug bar.
Right. So you're supposed to rest your pointer and your middle finger on that and play it with your bass. So if we're getting real technical here, according to Leo Fender, real bassists play with their thumb. So that even the fingerstyle players are wrong.
It's funny that you mentioned that. First of all, I didn't know that, so thanks for that. That's interesting. And secondly, as I've gotten older, I've realized that, like, for me, it's a good bass sound a lot of times is about muting. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the pick player can get a lot of that mute out of their hand by resting their hand. I mean, I guess you incorporate that technique for sure, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, just palm muting gets that thump. Mm-hmm. And you could do it without playing with a pick, of course. But it's
that's kind of where I'm at. Actually, my technique has gravitated towards. Almost like I'm playing with the pick, but I'm still using my fingers. I'm getting as much of the palm of my hand on the strings as I can these days.
Yeah, and that sounds great. Actually, I played a gig last night, a pop-up gig actually that just got kind of handed to us a couple hours before showtime, and we, one of those awesome gigs in Charleston that you just pick up because another band couldn't make it or whatever.
Right.
And I was on guitar actually, and Mason Pitts was on bass. First time I'd ever played with him, actually.
He's great.
Yeah, we played at the Southern, and Jimmy.
He was on the show earlier this morning, actually, and he was saying he had a good time. So. Yeah,
we were talking about it last night at the gig, and it was Jonathan Peace on drums, and we had a blast. And he was doing a thing. We were playing. It was during a couple of different reggae songs we played where I thought he was playing with a pick because I looked over. He just had this awesome thump going, and I was like, "Oh, it sounds like a palm muted pick playing," and he was basically playing as if he was holding a pick, but he wasn't holding a pick. Mm-hmm. So he's pinching his fingers, his pointer finger and his thumb together and like kind of playing that way with probably the side of his fingernail. It was great. I was like, man, that's pretty cool, and yeah. And so the pick I use also is it's a thick, it's 2 millimeter graphite pick. Just a guitar pick, just a regular shape. It's not like one of the big bass picks or anything. It's just a regular shaped guitar pick, 2 millimeter graphite. So it's pretty thick. Because I've tried to play with some thinner, like some of the big triangular bass picks and some thinner picks. And those, it could be a little bit too bright sometimes for me.
Yeah, they're a little unwieldy for me, actually. I don't really feel comfortable with those in my hand. Yeah.
I didn't mind the feel of it. It was just for the style of music now. If you're going for if we're talking about pick players, and let's say you're talking about like 90s punk, like pop punk, kind of the Green Day, stuff like that. That's when you get in that, round wound strings, that really like driving bass thing.
Yeah.
I'm going for more of a mellow.
That's all attack, right? Basically. Yeah.
And that's the sound I was getting when I would use the bass, the triangular bass picks, which are kind of sharp angled, and you're just getting that like ding, 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 which is cool for that. But for what I'm doing, I just use a regular guitar pick, which is a little bit more rounded and kind of mellower sounding. I mean, really, if I turn down the high end a little bit, I can get it kind of sounding like your fingers,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun. And it's just funny that I'm glad that 20 years ago when I started playing bass, I told myself, all right, I'm just going to play with my fingers because I'm glad I got able to do that. I'm glad I have that in my arsenal. Even though these days I'm more prone to play with the pick than my fingers, it's good to be able to do both. And, everything else too. Mm-hmm. Slap in and chunk in or whatever you called that, all that stuff. It's great to just be able to do everything. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Bobby. I appreciate your perspective on the pick playing. We call it a controversy in the world of bass.
Maybe anyone who's scared to come out, you can come out. You play the pick in public.
I think the only other controversy we haven't in bass playing would be what four strings versus multi strings. I don't know. I'm not even going to go there.
Lately, I'm usually playing 5-string electric bass.
Yeah.
Though I have a bunch of 4 strings. I had one 6-string bass. I bought a Modulus Q6.
Oh, nice.
Before they were crazy expensive. This was 8 years ago. I think I bought it for $1,600.
Oh, nice. Good deal.
And it was beautiful. I mean, it was I forget what kind of wood it was, but it was the natural wood top and just awesome. But it was a 6-string, and I wanted to like it so bad, because feel less.
It sounds like a great idea. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. I've tried it. I just thought it was, I don't know.
I owned it for a year, and I played it on a bunch of gigs, and it got to the point where I was like, I feel like I'm trying to like this more than I actually do.
Oh,
and
interesting.
then I just found myself thinking 5 is all I need to do. But that's obviously no judgment on anybody else. I mean,
Sure.
you know, the more the merrier. But that was my one, and then I traded it for a 5-string Warwick. I wish I just held on to it, because since then, you know, I think the value on them has gone up a lot, and really it would be fun just to have it still, because it was just a really cool instrument. But I did find that I was just not needing that extra string, and that's kind of, for me, it was just getting up a little bit into guitar territory where other people can shine, but for me, I just felt like, all right, I better stick down here to the lower notes for the most part.
That's how you get work. It is, you know.
Yeah,
that's where it's at, in those low notes. I'm not going to keep you all evening. Thank you very much for calling in and sharing that with us.
Yeah, thanks so much, and I'll look forward to hearing everyone else's stories and seeing everyone around town.
All right, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
So up next on the show, we've got Woody Woodcock. He's a local bass player. He's been doing shows all around town for years. He plays in all kinds of bands, all kinds of genres. Everybody knows he's a guy to call if you need bass guitar. How's it going today, buddy?
Going good, man. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for taking some time to sit down and talk to us, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, bro. Absolutely.
So how did you get involved in this bass playing game? Give me some background info.
Well, you know, Mom was always she's always an insightful woman. My mother was. Okay. She put me in guitar lessons when I was 10 years old. Still have no idea why.
She just thought you needed some learning, huh? Good. Well, that's great.
Either that or I must have done something wrong.
Oh, okay.
She put me and my sister in at the same time, and came out, you know, a couple of years of lessons that, you know, gave me the groundwork of working on a string instrument.
Gotcha.
And at the end of it, you know, I got it, and my sister kind of didn't. People said it felt very natural to me. The arm motions, the finger motions, it all felt very natural. So
I gotcha.
And moving into junior high school, of course, everybody at that age started thinking about their own band. Of course, they wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah, right.
Looked around as a couple of other keyboard players, a couple of other guitar players, but nobody played bass. So that became an idea. And then my mother, being who she was, traveled 120 miles to Andy's Music in Mobile and got me a PVT 40.
Oh, nice. Did you? I'm sorry. Did you say the PV? You're breaking up there a little bit. Okay. Yeah. So you. Yeah.
The Grand PVT 40 slab of wood, 12 and a half pound.
12 pounder, buddy. Nice.
Yeah, boy. So it just kind of went from there, and really gave me the edge. Is the first time I heard Rush.
Okay.
Getty, and I'd never heard anybody play a bass like that before.
Yeah, and
it was growly, and it was distorted, and
it's up front too. It's right there in the front.
It's very, very in your face, almost a lead, but at the same time, he provided a unique link between the drum and the melody.
Right.
And I'm like, well, shit, I want to do that. So went from there, and the approach that I took was reading a lot of magazines coming up, and reading all the names. I listened to all the greats and learned what they did, and read every word from every hero that I had of the day, and took it all to heart and tried it out. There was nothing too wild at that age.
Okay, who's some of those heroes? Yeah. Who are some of those guys?
Oh, geez. At that time, it was my big. Of course, there's Getty. Will Lee, actually, the old Late Show bassist. Yeah. He's had a unbelievably storied career that a lot of people don't even know about. This guy's a phenomenal singer too. I met him once. Talked to him for 10 minutes. Very cool dude. So meeting one of your heroes, that was cool. So he was a guy. At that time, I was starting to get into punk music a lot, and one of the guys around that time was Henry Rollins.
Oh yeah,
and he had just come out of Black Flag and put his band Rollins Band together.
Oh yeah, you're talking about that bass player. What was his name? Simeon Kane? Was that the drummer?
Weissman.
Oh, Andrew Weissman. Right. Yeah, he was great, man.
It's either Weissman or Weiss.
Yeah.
Now, little known fact, he produced Ween.
Oh, sweet.
He produced all the Ween albums. Andrew Weiss. In my opinion, Andrew Weiss, if you go back and listen to that album, Into the Silence, one of the most highly rated, underrated bassists I've ever heard.
I agree, man. Melodic, right there in the pocket, bluesy, just beautiful, man. Yeah, man, he was great. He was a huge influence on me.
He's not an easy guy to play for. I mean, Sim Kane, you mentioned his name on drums, and the guitarist, both very technical. So for him to come out of that, and another big guy of mine, which kind of changed the way that I look at the way a bass can be used, I guess, and the void that it can fill is Doug Wimbish.
Okay.
Around about the time that he hit Living Color, they put their album out, Stain.
Right.
And if you've never heard that album, I highly recommend that any bassist go back and listen to that album. No matter what you think of Vernon, there's a lot of hate for Vernon Reid, but what Doug Wimbish did on that album was it's horrible. But what Doug Wimbish did on that album was really groundbreaking, and it left me stunned the first time I heard about the entire album. Changed the way I did things for a long time.
Yeah, right. He definitely brought some groove and like a little bit of hard edge to it too. So
yeah, well, it's funny when you listen to that album, what he did with Living Color, and go back and listen to, he was the bassist for Le Chic. Doug Wimbish. So good times. That's his bass line.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, and you think about that and then go listen to Stain. It's like, is this the same guy?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of his solo stuff over the years. I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah, great player. Tony Levin, another big guy of mine. Literally big guy, 6'5" ball guy.
I think we saw that. We saw that show together. We saw that show at the same time, right? When we came to town recently. That beat show. That was amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
that is right. Levin does things outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually, one of his side things is Stickman, where he plays the Chapman stick. That's actually one of the next things on mine is my stick instrument.
Oh, it's about time somebody in this town plays a stick, man. You should do it.
Yeah.
I gotta
10, 12 string. I'm totally fascinated by it. And it seems to me that would be something that a bass specialist should take up.
Yeah, I think so too. I've always felt like if I got one, I don't know if I'd look at it more than play it though. I might be too intimidated by that.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, man. I know a bunch of guys that have a lot of instruments, like a lot of basses. I've never been that guy to own a lot of basses. Once I get one, I fall in love with it. Doesn't matter. Really, nothing's coming between me and that instrument, no matter what. Unless it's one exactly like it. So
so you play Yamaha basses, right?
Yeah, the old DVM5s.
Right.
They are out of production. Have been for quite a while. Not especially sought after, but incredibly hard to find.
That doesn't mean they won't. That doesn't mean they won't be though. I've had some basses I've let go and regretted like 10 years later, you know.
Let's see, my 89 Stingray.
Yeah.
Jazz bass, my 6-string Spectre. Oh my God! So this goes on and on.
Yeah, I've got I have an original. I used to have a Saber bass, a Music Man Saber bass. That's probably worth a lot of money now. But it was so heavy and it looked kind of old. And I was a young guy, and I was like, I don't want this old ass looking thing. And now I would kill for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Corey Stevens would have loved to get his hands on that one.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Good Lord.
So give me some ideas about what you bring to the table. Whenever someone hires you up to come play bass, what are they getting? What is your bass disposition, I should say?
I thought about that question a little bit over the past couple of days, and thought about what really crafted my style. And I spent 10 years in Atlanta after I came off a tour. I did a thing in my younger years. Came off the road and moved to Atlanta, and there was no cover market there. So if there was, it was nowhere in my area. Right. So if you were a player, you were in an original band.
Right.
And
kind of the same for me.
Yeah. Came up and got hired for a lot of power trios. And so what was always lacking was something I felt was atmospheric. My dad always listened to a lot of symphony music when I was a kid, and I was riding around in the car with him in school. He always had to tune the symphonic channel. So I got an earload of those for, 8 years, first 8 years that he took me to school. And it kind of stuck, because now I hear one note and I hear an entire symphony playing around it.
Oh, wow.
Which it also has its faults as well. So doing that, I felt there was a void for atmospherics and keyboard. So I took to learning chords, kind of outlandish chords, chime harmonics on the fretboard, just kind of fill it. And, you still see people today when I do stuff, they're like, wow, it's a bass. I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty cool, very versatile instrument.
Yeah.
That's why I'm totally in love with it. It can fill a variety. If you have the right specialty, you have the right technique, it can be an excellent vocal accompaniment instrument.
Yeah, I agree with that. Have you ever listened to Joni Mitchell with Jaco Pastorius?
With Jaco, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. That's some great interplay there. Yeah.
I mean, there will never be another album like that or another live concert like that.
Yeah, that's Hajira, right? I think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Anyway, continue. I didn't mean to get off on a tangent.
No, not at all. Those 10 years I spent there, I was lucky enough to get to a high point. One road led to another. Long story on that one, but it usually comes around once in your life, and you get it, and once it passes, it's done. I got a second chance at it coming out of a band in Atlanta, which was very weird. I heard the album for the first time and I hated it. I wanted nothing to do with it, but it was my longtime collaborator, Ryan Taylor, in Atlanta, who got me involved in it. It kind of gnawed at me. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. So the name of the band was Scoring Dope for the Ultimate Woman. Yeah. 7-piece band, 2 vocalists. It got some traction, and we were one of the first development acts drawn by DreamWorks SKG.
Oh, cool.
And there were some personal things that happened right about the time that we were supposed to fulfill that side of it. And, we ended up stepping away from that. And, I stepped away from the bass for 10 years.
Oh, wow. You mean you didn't play at all, or you just...
Did not own one, didn't play. No, it's when I decided to go to culinary school here in Charleston. So I moved to Charleston to get my culinary degree. I felt like capped out as a chef without the degree. Boy, was I dumb. So I got my degree at JWU and got married, settled in Charleston. We never left. And, one thing led to another, and I ended up owning another cheap bass that was purchased for me and given to me as a gift. This thing was beaten to hell. I'm like, how much did you pay for this? It's like $150. I'm like, oh my God. Jesus, really? Yeah. Oh God. So I sat in the corner for months and I picked it up one day and started talking on it again. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I can do this. But I had no intention of getting involved playing publicly again. I just wanted to.
Yeah, for fun. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, picked it up again. I felt better. I was very angry. Felt myself very angry for those 10 years not having music in my life. Something was definitely missing there. And the second that I started playing that instrument again, a lot of those old warm emotions started to come back.
That's great.
And just kept at it, and finally got back into playing shape. And I found that I had developed a style that was kind of unique. I think everybody knows I'm not everybody's cup of tea, playing wise. I'm very melodic to a fault, in my own opinion. But I think there's that side of me that always heard those bass guy jokes. Failed guitar player. What do you need to make a band?
Right. So that pissed you off. And
three musicians and a bass.
Oh, God.
So hearing those, I think that kind of lit a stroke of fire under me. And, learning the stuff that I learned and listening to guys I learned, I'm like, I got something to say on this instrument.
That's great.
And
I think that's kind of important.
Still not done speaking.
Yeah.
Still not done speaking yet. So I still haven't really started speaking on it yet. I'm not a fan of just doing cover music the way it's written.
Right. Well, I've talked to a lot of people on the show about that, and talking about the Charleston scene kind of is, that kind of goes hand in hand. Like
Indeed.
People in this town don't really see it that way, and it's kind of keeps it fun, keeps it free, keeps it fresh. I look at it as I look at the songs that I'm performing as a vehicle. And this is a business transaction. I'm very emotional about it. I do put my emotion in my playing, but at the same time, if I wanted to hear an exact reproduction of the line or the song, I'll just go home and listen to it. A very well-known producer told me that. So people go out to see a live show. They out to see live music. Right.
Sell them a show. And seeing the live show, in my world, I think that it involves changing up the arrangement a little bit.
So if you were to talk to some younger bass players kind of starting out, or maybe somebody who just moved to this town and what would be some advice you could give them to help them get started, help them get going?
I'll steal a line from Leland Sklar. Learn how to fill out a 1099.
Nice. That's the second time Leland Sklar's name's come up today, actually. That's great.
Love that guy. How can you not?
Yeah, exactly. He's the bass president, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He is. Well, yeah. It's the old guys, Get out there. Just get out there. There's a bunch of jams. I just went to the Rock Pile Jam this past weekend, and I've been going to the Rock Pile Jam for years and everything. Got back involved in it a little bit. Caught up with friends I haven't seen in years.
Could you tell us what that is to people who might not be familiar?
Who is it? My man Lee Archer runs that. Dan Insanas, I think he's from Num 909, the old Num 909, but I think he's starting a new band. I think he's the permanent stage director now. And my dude Greg Messenger, sound guy. I love Greggy. You may know Greg. Very well-known sound guy in this town, long-time legend. It's a rock and roll jam. They roll up, and I got to see a young man, Isaiah, this past weekend out of Somerville. Unbelievable guitar player. Got to see some very, very amazing young musicians at this thing.
That's good to know.
It is. Pub 61. They do it, I think it's every third. You can check out the Rock Pile page, and they'll give you more info on what it is.
Okay. I'll try to put that link in the
Yeah, it's a neat jams. And of course, the Low Country Blues Jam. Chris Tystrom, I think, runs a couple of an open jam on Sunday at Creekside. Young players, get out there, introduce yourselves. Don't be a dick about getting on stage.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail a little bit.
Don't
be
afraid. Yeah. You're not gonna get anything out of it by doing nothing.
That's the best advice I think I've heard all day. You got to do it.
I'll tell you off air more.
Well, Woody, thanks for having some time to sit down and talk to us today. Maybe we'll get you back on the show, and you're definitely a treasure around here, man. Appreciate you.
No, dude. No, you've become a good friend. I treasure your friendship, Sean.
All right.
And your success with Zilla as well.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Have a good day.
Brother.
Have a good day.
You too, son.
All right, so up next on the show, we've got John Kennedy, or John F. Kennedy, or JFK, however you know him. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. John is a man of many talents, and he plays many basses, and one of which is a beautiful electric bass that I know that he made. Maybe we can get him to talk a little bit about that. But he also plays the upright bass, and is the only upright bass player featured on the show today. So how did you come about that, John?
Well, so I had my little brother, who's 7 years younger than I am, was taking Suzuki violin, and the lady that was teaching him violin was also the strings teacher at the high school that I went to, Wando High School. Go Warriors!
Oh, nice.
And she knew that I was playing bass, electric bass, and talked me into joining the strings class. And so I was actually doing strings and band at the same time. I was playing trombone and upright bass at the same time.
Okay, was the trombone your first instrument?
It was.
Okay, so
it was.
And for people who are listening, that's the same key, or that's the same register as the bass guitar, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, as I went through and played trombone, I wanted to go lower and lower. So I would always take the fourth trombone parts or the bass trombone parts and try to blat them out on the little horn that I had. But I've always been a bass junkie. Even before I started playing any instrument, I remember taking a piece of wood out of my dad's shop and taking a magic marker and drawing lines and would watch MTV and trying to mimic the bass player.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not one of those guys that started on guitar and went to bass. I had this sickness early on.
Me too.
So I started in school, started playing upright bass in school, and ended up playing in the youth symphony here in Charleston, probably about halfway through my freshman year, and started studying with a private teacher then. And upright bass is one of those things where the instrument is so big that the technique is crucial to having really success on it. And,
right.
And the classical guys really have it figured out. So a lot of the jazz players you talk to have studied classical because that's where the technique comes from. And a lot of us do cross over. I really haven't played classical music on a regular basis in quite a long time, but I did get to participate in a thing at St. Philip's Church earlier this summer.
Oh, nice.
It was a lot of fun. Got to sit with Roman Picard, who is another outstanding bass player in our community.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
Nice. And that was you playing with the bow and playing classical music?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep, playing with the bow, and got to leave the amp at home for that one.
Good. So what are you up to now? What is your main haunts these days? What are you doing?
So I have the incredibly fortune to be considered the house bass player at Forte. I really share the position with two other guys. Jerome Griffin does a lot of the Motown stuff, and the great Brett Ballinger has an instrumental jazz group that he plays on Wednesday nights. But I get to back up a lot of the vocal jazz, which means I play the Thursday nights, which is what we call the American Songbook night. So it's with a singer playing all the great tunes from what people would think of as Frank Sinatra,
right.
that sort of vein. But then I also get to play with the 17-piece big band, which is an incredible thing. And I do a lot of the show band stuff that Joe Clark, the owner of Forte, puts on. We've got an Elton John, Billy Joel show that we do. We've got a Phil Collins show. We've got a Ray Charles show, a B.B. King tribute. So I get to play with all of that stuff. But as the bulk of what I do is Thursday nights, playing with Abdiel Iriarte on piano and Josh Hoover on drums.
Okay, that's
backing up a singer.
And that is what you sent me, I think, right? The tracks that you sent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
Abdiel's a
clips.
great piano player. Wow.
Yeah, I am so fortunate to get to sit between those two guys. Both of those guys are just fantastic, and it is so much fun.
Yeah,
getting to sit between them.
So let me ask you a question. What is it about the bass that brought you to it? Like you said that you were listening to it at an early age, and that was the instrument for you. What was it specifically about it?
I really don't know. One of my earliest memories of being a little kid and having a quote unquote favorite song was listening to the radio in the early 70s, riding around with my mom and hearing songs like Rubber Band Man,
right,
which have just an iconic bass line that just drew me to, and I guess it was the groove back then. I had no idea that it was. And the next big thing that I remember drawing me to the bass, and this is going to sound so corny, but it was the video for Tough Enough by the Fabulous Thunderbirds. And
that is not what I thought you was going to say. That's cool, though. It's a good song.
It's a great song, yeah. But in the video, it had close-ups to the bass player's hands. And so I could finally kind of see what the bass player was doing.
Okay.
And then as I kind of progressed through music, I always followed drummers. And all of the great drummers had a great bass player with them. So when I got into Ginger Baker, there's Jack Bruce right there beside him. I got into Stuart Copeland, and there's Sting right there beside him. And it just kind of the progression came from there. And then when I'd been playing about 2 years, and somebody introduced me to the Grateful Dead. So I started listening to the Grateful Dead at 14, and to be able to do whatever I wanted to musically, within reason, in the improvisational style, that was the purple school bus pulled up, and I got on and was gone.
That's great. Yeah,
and then that led me into my love for jazz,
right,
as well.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to the last show I did was with Andy Greenberg and Bobby Hogg, and we were talking a lot about how there's an intersection there between jazz and the Grateful Dead and improvisation in general. How those kind of things are related. It's interesting how we all kind of come to the same places from different places, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that classical music taught me is that it is very hard for me to play the same thing the same way twice.
Yeah, that's true.
So being able to improv was a lot of freedom for me, opening up that way.
All right. So what do you got coming down the pipes? We're going to do anything. What's this year looking like for you, John?
So we've just started I have just started my third year as the bass player at Forte, and I'm very much looking forward to that. We've got kind of some standard fare, but then there's some cool stuff coming down. One of the things I think and I hope that Joe's going to do more of is the Phil Collins show, which, there's just iconic Leland Sklar.
Absolutely.
So much of that stuff. And
he's a bass player's bass player right there, man. That guy
absolutely.
is solid. Yep.
And then just, honing, I'm in a position where I'm continually honing my craft on bass, and, working with guys like Abdiel and Josh are really pushing me to keep going in my studies, as far as that goes. And then, I've got a new cool trio that I've started with my old friend John Holenko from the Hungry Monks, and a singer-songwriter in town named Mike Kaufman.
Okay.
That is pretty much all original. Both John and Mike write good songs. Both are really good fingerstyle guitar players, and I get to hold an upright and stand between them and try to keep up with what they've got going on. So I'm looking forward to that.
And that's called Fairweather, right? I think I saw
Fairweather.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw something about that. I'll definitely be checking you guys out, man. That sounds like something really awesome.
Yeah, and then that's about as far as I can plan right now. But I have just, and I'm one of those guys. I've always been really lucky that really cool stuff falls in my lap.
Well, maybe it's because you're really good, John. Well, that's great, man. Thanks for taking some time and talking to us today, and good luck with all the things that are coming your way, man.
Oh man, yeah. Thank you, and thank you for calling, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this podcast. And hope great things happen. Take care, Sean.
Just as phony as it can be, but it wouldn't be make believe if you believed in me. Take it, man.
I hope everyone listening had as much fun as I did in making this episode. Special thanks to everyone who took some time out of their busy lives to call in and talk with us today. If you are interested in the music that you heard, there is a track-by-track listing and assorted links included in the episode description. If you like what we're doing here and would like to see the show grow, please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, and or share the show on your social media. It really is the best and easiest way to help us out. We'll be back with another show in 2 weeks. Thanks for stopping by.